Hi, I'm Nicole Wilbur, and this video is going to be a very exciting interview conversation that I did with one of my best critique partners, Christopher. This video is part of a collaboration with Meredith Phillips Wright. Meredith is amazing. If you haven't checked her out and subscribed to her, you absolutely need to go do that. She is organizing a critique partner matchup. The idea being to connect writers and help them find people to give them feedback on their work, because getting feedback on your work is so important, and I talk about that so often. And if you are a new writer, it can be hard to know where to go because family and friends don't give great feedback. They're like, oh, you're doing great, honey. You don't want that. You want realistic feedback. And so this is a very exciting initiative that she's running, and I'm going to sign up for it. Our goal with these videos is to reach more people, because if only 5 people sign up for it, it's not going to be that helpful. So you have to be over 18 years old, so 18 and over. It's open to anyone writing in any genre, any stage of writing process, a newbie writer or a veteran. The matchup is open right now. If you are seeing this video, it is open. There's no rush in signing up. It's going to be open for the foreseeable future. And when it does close, I will put a note somewhere on this video so you know. So this video is part of a playlist of all sorts of videos about critique partners, with the goal, of course, being to tell as many people as possible about the matchup so we can get as many people matched as possible. So definitely, here are your instructions. Watch this video, then go to the playlist, enjoy all of the videos and the topics on critique partners there, and especially watch Meredith's video. She will have all of the information about the matchup, and she will have a link to a Google form as well. If you watch her video and you decide critique partner matching up is for you, then go fill it out and wait for some new friends who can critique your work. So now I am introducing you to Christopher, who is my great critique partner. You'll hear all about how we connected and stuff in this chat. So how our critiquing works, just to give you some context here for the conversation we're about to have, is we both started with a finished draft. Christopher was like, I'm going to be self-publishing this very soon. I'm going to be doing a full edit. I believe this was in like March. And so he's read my book twice, because I sent, I think in sort of chunks of acts. So I sent over, I think it was 4 chunks of the draft 4, whatever it was, as I was going, and then sent over when I edited it fully again after beta readers. We would send the Word document and then leave like inline comments and then summarize overall feedback in the emails that we send. And then sometimes if there are questions or things to dive deeper into, we'll have an email conversation back and forth. So it's act by act, I guess is what I'm saying, for each act. So there's feedback per act. Then we've both sent our first chapters back quite a bit. When I was applying for something, I had to send the first 10 pages, and I couldn't get, I wanted to get the inciting incident in the first 10 pages, and it wasn't. So I definitely sent him an emails being like, I just rewrote this. Can you suggest where to cut? And he made suggestions on where I can slash words. This actually does that a lot for me, where I'm like, what can I get rid of? Please help. So that's been a big part of our process, is the iteration. And so the reason I think critique partners are super helpful, a beta reader is going to read your book once and give you feedback. Your critique partner will go in and read your different versions over and over. And I like that, because they can tell you whether it's improved or not, whether you've solved the problems or not, but you still do need the beta readers, someone who's fresh and new to the story, to come in and do your sanity checking for you. So having the 2 of them in balance, so someone who's read the book at this point 2 times through, some scenes multiple times through, different revisions of it, that is very useful for your sort of North Star progress. Am I getting better? They can help you solve problems because they know the manuscript well, can make really structural suggestions, whereas your beta reader is really representing your reader experience, and so you can validate everything you get from your critique partner, that you are making progress and this has been changed, by comparing it to the beta reader's comments and just checking that there's nothing totally out of line there. So if that sounds interesting to you, keep on watching and you will see the interview.
And I'm very excited to be chatting to Christopher Corton, who is the author of Stealing Stanley, which is a really exciting kind of like heist caper story, and is one that I had the absolute privilege of getting to sort of critique partner beta read for. So we were just chatting, and I was trying to think, because I think we've been critiquing for quite a good chunk of this year, like back and forth. How did we get connected? It was Twitter, I think, where
Yeah, it was.
yeah,
I think it was Twitter. I'm no
yeah,
longer on, but I was for a bit.
yeah.
And um, yeah, I think it was
Was it?
just
Yeah,
general. Someone was talking about critique partners, and I said
yeah.
I'd be open for one, and you responded, and that was it, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and our process has been kind of so I'm working on a heist story. Been working on it for a while. You obviously just self-published one. And so we've been more or less like sending pages back and forth with our comments and feedback and that kind of thing, doing edits, sending new ones, especially me. I'm like, here's version 15. Um,
Yeah, it's been a great process for sure, both to receive the comments, but also just going through the process of making them, because it really does make you think about your own story and about the stories in general and what's important. And it's been great to be involved in the process from both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why I think this would be a cool conversation because we both wrote heists. And I think that's why it's nice to be critique partners too. Because it's like the same genre. There's a lot of sort of the similar kind of conventions and such. One of my favorite things about your book is it's absolutely hilarious. Like some of the lines are, I mean, a lot of them are just wonderful, and you get so into it. And writing humorous, like comedic writing like that is really hard. Um, and you do it so well. Do you have any sort of sense, or like, is it just instinctive, or do you try to come up with scenarios where humor will happen? Like, how do you work on that bit?
I think most of the humor actually comes in later. It's rare that on that first rough draft pass through that there's that much humor. That there's probably a little bit, hopefully,
Yeah.
but typically it's when I go back through and edit, and then the funny lines, I guess, come to mind. How people, yeah, I probably develop more of the character input in the editing pass, and the first is a little more mechanics, even though this is sort of the only heist story I've done, and the next one is not a heist story. It's more classic kind of murder mystery-ish. um it it that first pass is mostly mechanics. I'm definitely a plotter. I'm not a
Yeah.
pantser, so I have everything is here's Clover Point, the next one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so it's all broken down chapter by chapter, beat by beat, and so that first draft is just filling in the blanks, mostly getting the story mechanics there, and then so yeah, the characters and the humor that goes with it, I guess, comes out in the editing
Sort of that.
pass.
Yeah. One of the things that I've found really interesting and difficult is I will have a line or two that I think is funny, and then because of structural reasons and story reasons, I'm like, oh, I have to get rid of that section. For a while, I had a pig that was in the story for a little bit, and I actually, in the version, I don't know if you've read it yet, but I had to take it out because I was like, this is just not doing anything. This is too long, and I was really sad because I missed Dana
I
the
I
pig
I,
so
I remember the pig. Yeah.
I miss her, but I did take it out. And I mean, I think that's something that I really had to get over. This is one of the first times I've done like heavy editing on a story like this, where it really is killing your darlings. So that's a hard kind of lesson for me, and especially, taking in feedback of like, this isn't really advancing the story from beta readers and critique partners, just kind of having to go with it. My question is, based on sort of critiques and your own beta readers, what's kind of one of the harder things that you've had to, I guess, learn or change in editing Stealing Stanley?
I had two or three books that I'd written before Stealing Stanley, which was for me just sort of part of the learning process. And I
Mm-hmm.
had big hopes and dreams, but none of them really went far, and that's a good thing in hindsight. But one of those had there was always this one scene, and I just loved it so much, and nobody else did, and that was a painful thing. I had the protagonist is caught by the bad guys. He's up on like the 12th floor of an office building, and he's been duct taped to an office chair, and he gets rescued. It's all very dramatic. He gets rescued. The one of the other protagonists swings in through the window, breaks it, clips. She's like dangling from a rope from the penthouse. So she's rappelled down the side. She swings in. She breaks through the glass. She clips onto his chair, pulls him out, and then they both plummet down. I don't know why, but I love this scene so much, and I did everything to force it in, and nobody liked it. Nobody liked it. So that was the hardest lesson. With Stealing Stanley, I think I was more prepared that people weren't going to like things, and I could deal with that better. That said, there wasn't a whole lot. There was a huge struggle with the opening scene. Mm-hmm. To get it to a point that worked. I was either starting too early or starting too late, and I think many people struggle with that element. But it's sometimes easy to see how that, the piece of advice or that idea for how to make something stronger, either you're jumping back and forth in time, or you're just point of clarity. But when you do that, it's sort of that domino effect. You've changed one part, and then how does that interrupt the flow? And so right now, flawed as it might be, the flow is there, and it does sort of go along, at least in a way that I'm happy with it as an author. So to inject new things sometimes means changing a whole lot more than just that. And
yeah, absolutely. That's something I've realized too. And it's like, oh, I changed this one thing in the beginning, and then it's like, oh no. Just have to or even at the end, it's like, okay, now I have to go back and put in all of the clues for all of the things. So it definitely is very interconnected. So what are you working on now?
What am I working on now?
Yeah,
the direct sequel to Stealing Stanley, which is called Clover Point. So same characters, same location, and but a different story, and like not a heist, but more of a classic murder mystery. And it's I'm excited to get into it. It's sort of all planned out. I had big hopes for NaNoWriMo, but life got in the way, and that didn't really happen. But hopefully after Christmas and the new year, I had an ambitious plan to try and have things ready for my critique partner to have a look at by maybe March, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, I'm excited to look at it whenever it's there.
So with some kind of criminal, and with Lena, what's she's your protagonist. So her growth throughout the story, from beginning to end. How did that evolve over time? And like as you were writing it, did you have the vision for it overall? It's something that I sort of, again, because I'm like plotting out all the mechanics. I should ask you that. Are you more of a plotter or a pantser? Maybe that's a better question.
Yeah, I'm a plotter for sure. I tend to procrastinate the mechanics though. And then I have to try to figure it out. That's one thing, this is maybe cheating, but one of the things that I find ChatGPT useful for in writing is here's a museum, what kind of security would be in it? What are ways to thwart it? Because it's really good at brainstorming things, or brainstorming how someone would solve a problem. And that is very helpful in giving me I think that there's a little mystery, and the mystery code and how that was solved. I got the kernel of that from interrogating ChatGPT about how do I make them solve this cryptogram. So yeah, I find that hard to brainstorm sometimes with something interesting.
Neat. Yeah, I haven't delved into those. I did a little bit when I was querying. I asked ChatGPT to write me a query letter, but it didn't go well.
No. I find it's useful for very specific things. If I want to see what someone Scottish, somehow someone who's Scottish might say this one thing, I'll ask that, and then I'll be able to like put in one word or change the rhythm of the dialogue a little bit. But in terms of for specific, very specific details, I find it helpful. For like anything else, as it just, the quality comes out so poor, and then you have to rewrite it anyways.
Yeah, but for the, as you say, the brainstorming idea, that's brilliant. Yeah.
It's helpful. There was something about Lena's character.
There was. Yeah, I was just trying to get to I guess my methodology, if you want to call it that, is that the sort of relates to what we were talking earlier, right? When I put the humor in, or try to, that comes out with infusing is a better word, if I could say it. Infusing the characters into the story, and with that you get more of the character growth. So when I first write it, how my protagonist is at the beginning and how they are at the end, there isn't generally a huge amount of change factored in, and that sort of comes in later in the process, and hopefully it's a satisfying growth to the reader. But
Yeah,
just wondering how you approach that aspect.
that's a really good question. The first draft, I think I had some of it in there, but not a lot. I think I'm similar to you in that the characters really came out in subsequent drafts and sort of the heart of what the story was. My first draft, the Lena's kind of like internal problem, there was kind of two pronged, and I worked with an professional editor for a little bit, and she kind of came back to me and she was like, okay, so she either needs to like really not like music, or she needs to, there was something else, or like really have a problem with her aunt. Like it has to be one or the other. It can't be both, because it was kind of the two of them and it was getting confusing. And the things are very closely linked, but it's like, so what is the journey? Is it her journey to loving music again, or her journey to discovering what it is for herself, or is it her journey of like, her relationship with herself and her aunt and that kind of thing? So I think that really came out in subsequent drafts. Even her like, that's internal, even her like external development, there really wasn't very much at the beginning either. She was kind of like, she was sort of strong at the beginning, wishy-washy in the middle, and strong at the end. And so I had to change it to give her, so she's a very active character throughout the whole time now, but just in different ways, and willing to do different things.
Well, this was great, Nicole. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks again for having me on. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Do it again sometime if you like. That'd be great. Meanwhile,
We should
I'll get
totally do it
into
again. This is fun. Yeah.
right on.
All right. Have a good one.